How would you define racism?
That's a good question. I think racism comes about whenever you put someone's race before their own personal characteristics, whenever you obviously discriminate against someone simply because of their race, whenever you allow someone's race to subtly influence your views on who they are or what they're going to do.
Let's check some examples. For example, would it be racism not to hire someone because they're black even though they're the most qualified candidate?
Well, I think that's obvious. I think everyone would agree that that's racism, and in fact we've had laws established in this country to prevent that.
Would it be racism not to let somebody into your club or organization because they were black also, right?
Of course.
So could we conclude then that if you use race as a factor to evaluate another human being's skills, merits, or character instead of focusing strictly on their actions, that would be racism?
No, well, race can certainly be something you take into account as something that may have been an obstacle to opportunity for someone. In fact, that's at the heart of affirmative action. That because of institutionalized racism in the past, because racism is still pervasive in the society today, sometimes you have to take race into account in decision making, but it can't be the sole characteristic, and you certainly can't hold someone's race against them.
So if you use race as a factor to evaluate, that wouldn't be racism?
Not necessarily if you use it as a factor to evaluate. Race can't be escaped. Race is a fact of life in society. It's if you use it as the sole factor, or if you use it to overcome other factors like the qualifications.
Could you give me an example of racism where the person is not using race as a factor to evaluate other human beings?
What do you mean? Explain.
Well, you say that there are situations where you use race as a factor and they're not always racism, right? So could you give me an example of a racist action or racist behavior or racism where the person is not using race as a factor to evaluate other human beings?
No, racism certainly contains that. Now,
so you're always using race as a factor to evaluate other human beings, but you say that there's something else besides that?
Well, race is, I'm not really sure I'm following your question. I mean, the truth is that we've had a history of racism in this country. For many years we had slavery in this country. For many years after that we had institutionalized Jim Crow laws. Even today, we still find that blacks and whites as groups earn very different incomes for doing the same work. We find out that in the criminal justice system, a third of the African American males under the age of 30 are in the criminal justice system right now.
Well, let me ask you about some other cases. For example, say if you concluded that somebody had bad character because they were black, would that be racism?
You know what? I'm not going to do this.
You don't like the question?
No, this is...
Well, let me just ask you some other question, and I don't see what is the...
I think it's just better to have a case.
What, didn't you say it was good to have a rational discussion on the subject?
Thank you.
But why is it that you won't answer the questions? What is there something wrong with the question I asked you?
No, it's you're...
I just would like to know what you think on the subject. Take it easy. It's not how will it harm you?